I'm very honest about this, and I always say that perfectionism is self-abuse because you are trying to reach an ideal. Hello, my name is Elenit, and I'm an inner truth teacher and coach. Today I'm going to talk about perfectionism and about how we can make this idea that is usually negative, how we can make it work for us instead. Perfectionism is rooted in the idea of not being good enough. It comes from childhood when authority figures demanded too much from you as a child who was still just learning how to navigate the world. This idea of perfectionism or being perfect grows from being judged for making mistakes. It comes from situations where highly imperfect people demanded perfection from you, and then they shaming you for not being able to meet their expectations. As a coach, I often speak with very talented, smart, and competent people who want to achieve great things. However, they feel that they are never doing enough. Whatever they do, they think is too small, because they have a distorted idea of this big thing that they should be doing but aren't able to do. This is where people get stuck because what they cannot do interferes with what they actually can do. So trying to reach self-imposed impossible standards leaves you with a feeling of inadequacy. Also, it's very hard to measure progress when you think that what you're doing it's never enough. This situation where people feel stuck, where they feel they're not doing enough, comes up very often in coaching. People think they need to know everything, that they have to have everything figured out before they take action. And that's simply not true. I often say that you don't have to have everything figured out, but you do need to know the next small step to take. And finding that step is always possible. And it's beautiful to see how people regain access to their creative power when we focus only on the next step. Because deep within, you already know what to do. And greatness lives within you. I'm very honest about this, and I always say that perfectionism is self-abuse because you're trying to reach an ideal. You're trying to reach something that probably didn't even come from you, that someone else told you you should be like this, or you should do this, you shouldn't make mistakes. And that's just not possible. But what's possible is to love yourself, to nurture yourself, to develop your talents without judging yourself. What I've noticed is that people who identify as perfectionists already have a very good eye for detail. Their work tends to be very creative and of high quality. And there's nothing wrong with striving for more. Of course, we're here to become more, to be creative, and you can also do that without the self-judgment. After all, what's noble about reaching anything you can achieve if you judge yourself, if you're doing it to prove something? It seems to me that people who tend to be perfectionists identify this trait as negative. However, deep down, they also feel a sense of pride because they know that they're actually capable of achieving great things. So maybe the answer is not to get rid of perfectionism, but to change or transform the relationship you have to it. I once had a client who's one of the most brilliant and creative people I've ever met. And of course, perfectionism often came up in our conversations. What I saw in her was that she had a great ability to notice small things. She had a very, very good eye for detail. I would have done a disservice to her if I told her something like, you don't have to be perfect, don't look for perfection. That would have been too simplistic, because precision and attention to detail actually are some of her superpowers. Perfectionism is burdened with expectation, fear, and judgment. It reduces success to one image of how something should look like or should be. So I made a suggestion to this client to shift her perspective from perfectionism to excellence, because excellence allows variety, experimentation, and growth. In perfectionism, there is only one right answer. Another person I want to tell you about is my sister. She's one of the most intelligent people I've ever met. Her mind works so fast, sometimes it's even scary. I knew that she wanted to start a YouTube channel, so I recently asked her, why haven't you done it? And her answer was that she didn't have any ideas, which was ridiculous because, again, she's a very smart person. I knew she was putting up a wall and that there was something she wasn't saying. So I told her, hey, don't give me a bogus answer. You know very well what your talents are. Just make a video about that. Her next excuse was, but I don't know what niche to commit to. And again, I told her, that's another excuse. You don't have to commit to anything now. You just need to record a 20-second video. You don't even have to post it. Just record it. Then she paused. And it was one of those pauses that announces an upcoming confession. Finally, she said, I have very high expectations of myself. She's my sister and I felt for her because she usually doesn't show vulnerability and she was doing it in this occasion. Since she's my sister, I was very direct to her and asked her, do you know that perfectionism is a form of self-hatred? She's also into personal development, so I knew that she would get what I was saying. I also explained that the whole perfectionism idea has it backwards. Because when you create something, it shouldn't be so people would validate you or to show that you are good enough. My videos, for example, are simply a form of expression. In my videos, everything I am comes together. My knowledge, my experience, my talents, the lessons I've learned in life, my languages, and also my relationships. I speak a lot about my relationships, my clients, my family. That's it. And if someone benefits from something they hear in these videos, that's wonderful. But first and foremost, I do it to honor myself, to honor who I am, my creativity, and the gifts that life has given me. It would be wrong to stop myself from making a video just because I don't have a professional camera or because I don't have exceptional editing skills. I often bring the concept of the inner child when I see that people are asking too much from themselves. I guide them to connect to the child that they once were. Imagine that child trying to, let's say, paint a beautiful home, but she's feeling terrible because the lines are not perfectly straight. What would you say to her? A caring, sensible adult would encourage the child to continue painting. A caring, sensible adult would understand that the child is just learning. They wouldn't shame the child, they wouldn't yell at the child. And yet, that's what a lot of adults did with us when we were children. A caring adult would help the child and would encourage the child to continue creating. And in truth, there is no difference between that child trying to paint a nice house and you trying to create whatever you're trying to create now. You're still learning, you're still experimenting and discovering what you are capable of. So why would you deny yourself that patience and kindness that you would probably naturally offer a child? Perfectionism is the fear of being seen as we truly are, and that is a form of people-pleasing. It's the illusion that says, if I'm perfect, I will finally be accepted. I will be enough. But that's not true, because in perfectionism, it's never enough. Why? Because everything can improve. Excellence is different. Excellence says, I will give this thing my attention. I will see how far I can get doing this. It's a way to honor your creativity and who you are. Finally, I want to leave you with a question. What would become possible if you allow yourself to be seen, to express, to create beyond the limits of what you think is perfect? See you in the next video.